Ready? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September meeting of the Anne Arundel County Police Accountability Board. My name is Jeanette Ortiz, Chair of the PAB, and I would like to call this meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the August 26th meeting of the PAB. The audio recording of the August 26th meeting will serve as the minutes for the meeting. At the August meeting, we welcome new members to the PAB. Welcome again. We discussed the upcoming annual report that we will be drafting and finalizing to share with the county executive, county council, our law enforcement agencies, delegation, and committees in the Maryland General Assembly. We also discussed the upcoming legislative session and some legislation that may be of interest to the PAB, amongst other things. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the August 26th meeting?
I motion that we approve the minutes of the August 26th meeting.
Thanks, Jen. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, great. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, the meeting minutes of the August 26th PAB meeting have been approved. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. So at this time, we will accept public comment. A few friendly reminders before we get started. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to provide public comment. A speaker representing an organization shall have 5 minutes to provide public comment. A timer will be used to keep time. Once the buzzer sounds, please wrap up your comments. Any remaining time may not be allocated to another speaker. We ask that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences watching the meeting. The board cannot and will not discuss any specific cases. It is also not the practice of the board to engage in back and forth with speakers. Do we have anyone here for public comment at this time?
There are 2 attendees. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. All right, well, if later in the meeting there's public, other folks jump on, I'll ask again. All right, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, new business. So for this meeting, I asked the law enforcement, our 5 law enforcement agency heads, our chiefs and our sheriff to please attend this meeting to basically introduce themselves to our new members and also share with us their experience so far and their perspective on the Maryland Police Accountability Act of 2021. So I'm very excited to have our 4 chiefs and our sheriff here this evening. And so, you know, I'll go through the list and if you can provide, you know, in a few minutes, just share with us your thoughts on, you know, the law, how it's been implemented, its impact or lack thereof on your agency, because I know not all of the agencies have had complaints, but either way, I'm sure there's been training, statewide training and things of that nature, or things that you've, you know, kind of maybe reconsidered in your agency given the new law. So without further ado, we have Chief Alwood with the Anne Arundel County Police Department. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you very much for asking me to be here. You can hear me, right? First, my name is Amal Alwood. I'm blessed to serve as Chief of Police for Anne Arundel County. And I just want to thank you all, firstly, for your investment of your time. We know that it draws on your time. It's a substantial investment, and we appreciate you. I'll just highlight or note that when the new process with the PAB, ACC, administrative hearing boards were implemented, there were some challenges statewide. And from my personal observation, Anne Arundel County seemed to, it wasn't seamless, but almost flawless with implementation. So from the appointment to the executive director on down, Madam Chair. So I think that the state used us, agencies throughout the state used us as a model to develop their own processes. So thank you all. You know, I think it's important to thank you also for your commitment to learning and educating yourselves, committing to that. I know it's a state mandate, but I've visited enough of the time, the training academy, when you all are going through the community police academy, and you're very invested, very engaged. And I know you're learning and taking that all in and considering all those things when you're making decisions. So thank you for that. I met a couple members most recently, about 3 weeks ago, at our Community Police Academy Session 31. And I gave an overview of, you know, who I am, where I came from, how long I've been invested in this profession, and why I joined, and truly just to make a difference in my community, in our community. I know that the sole, not sole role, but the cornerstone truly of why we're here is to ensure accountability within our profession, within policing, and professionalism. I know that you know, none of us are perfect. We're all human. We're going to make mistakes, and it's important that we take corrective action and hold ourselves accountable. And that's why this process is now in place, because to bring more consistency throughout the 24 jurisdictions, right? We strive for excellence here in the Anne Arundel County Police Department. I'm proud of the work we've done. And again, you've been through, most of you have been through completely our Community Police Academy, and you're aware of some of the subjects we introduced to our officers. I'll just highlight just a couple very quickly. Cultural competency, that's important, so that when we're engaging with folks in the community, we're able to attempt to relate to folks free of bias. Beyond that, we're one of very few agencies in the state that collaborates with the National African American Museum of History and Culture, and also the Holocaust Museum. For law enforcement specific guided tours, showing our officers not just the history of policing, but how policing has impacted communities of color throughout the years. And also, you know, lessons learned, and essentially, you know, so that we don't repeat the ills of the past. And then lastly, I just recently just popped up at the police academy to visit our new recruit class. And I found it interesting that things have changed in terms of training for police officers since I first joined in 1990. And I was so impressed at the college level coursework that our recruits were receiving in the academy. Not only are they you know, being lectured by a professor, but they're also being tasked with work. So in the past, we would take a class and have to take a test to pass. Well, they're doing things a little more differently there. And to see those young men and women stand up as groups and actually give a presentation with a PowerPoint presentation showed me that not only are they hearing lecture, but they're also conducting research, and then taking all of that information and presenting it, you know, before the entire class. So we know they're absorbing that information, more likely to actually demonstrate what's expected once they graduate the police academy. So, you know, just speaking with the staff on where we've been with the new process, I've heard nothing but positive feedback, quite frankly, and I've received positive feedback from, you know, Madam Panda and yourself, Madam Ortiz. So in terms of any issues for us, I know that there was talk about the year and the day, and it could have a negative impact if we do have a criminal case that takes almost a year to conclude, because we need information from that criminal case to proceed with the administrative case, right? So for larger jurisdictions, I think that is a smart, a smart recommendation to ensure that some agencies are not missing the mark, as we know, through media articles, some agencies have, and it's because of the time constraint. So thank you for, again, inviting me to be here, and I'll turn things back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Elwood. I appreciate that perspective. Are there any board member questions for Chief Elwood at this time?
Just a quick
Yeah.
comment, if I may.
Yeah.
Chief, in the Anne Arundel County Police Department, I've been through the Citizens Police Academy, and I've completed a couple of ride-alongs with your team. And I have the utmost respect for what they do. Even the newer generation team members that I did the ride-along on, they were engaged with the community. I thought I would not see that. They were not just contained in the patrol cars. They were out being a part of the community. Some of the calls were difficult, and it seemed like they handled the stress professionally. The communication did not elevate into the level where you would be confrontational. So I saw a lot of good stuff from your team, and I'm sure it's with the other law enforcement community members here. And I just want to applaud you for your leadership and your entire team, what you do every day. So we see you, we want to acknowledge you, but we also want to do what we're supposed to be on the accountability board. So thank you and your team for what you do.
Sir, I thank you, and I'll be very brief in my response. I know that we pride ourselves on the quality of training that we provide to our recruits, not just our recruits, but recruits from throughout the state who desire to receive a quality education and training opportunity. So we have agencies from throughout the state who ask for positions in our police academy. So that speaks to the professionalism and the level of quality training that a recruit would get here in Anne Arundel County. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Cedric, for noting that. Any other questions or comments from our board members? And if you think of something later, you can definitely ask. All right. Thank you so much again, Chief Elwood. Now we'll move to Chief Jackson with the Annapolis Police Department. Welcome, Chief Jackson. As I mentioned, we just invited you and your fellow chiefs and Sheriff Sesker here today just for an introduction to our new board members, and also just to share your perspective on, the 2021 Maryland Accountability Act and any sort of challenges or positive impacts it has had on your agency. Thank you for being here this evening.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Wait a minute. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. I have a tough time following my good friend, Chief Howard, and her remarks, but many of them I echo. But before I get started, and I forget, as you probably know, or I'm pretty sure you do know, that Rhonda McCoy, the professional standards manager, will be leaving us at the end of the month. And so I want to publicly, before the board, thank her for her time in service. I think it's safe to say, and Chief Howard would agree, Howard would have to agree, that she took the lead to make sure when this law was enacted by the Maryland General Assembly that she got right on it and researched it and learned and became a subject matter expert on the Police Accountability Act of 2021. And so I just want to thank her and wish her well in all her future endeavors. So if you're listening, Rhonda, thank you so very much. I guess I would say that when, like most unfunded mandates, it's a challenge. When this mandate first came out, I was expecting to be given somewhat of a budget to help implement the mandates of the law. When I found out that it was pretty much an unfunded mandate, had it not been for Rhonda, I don't know how I would have approached it. But now that we are 3 years into this, as each day goes by and as each shift ends in our encounter with the public, I appreciate the work of the ACC. I appreciate the work of the PAB. And, never could I have imagined, I'm sorry, during my law enforcement career, my long career, that I would see the public so engaged in their police department. And I've always of the mindset that police departments belong to the community. They don't belong to us. And when you pin that badge on and raise your right hand and swear that you'll protect and serve, then that belongs to the public. And I think for far too long, police departments have been very closed, very complex organization. As indicated with the us versus them mentality, the thin blue line. Although I know when the thin blue line mantra first came out, it was well intended, meaning that the average person doesn't know the sacrifices, the danger, the stress, the trauma that an officer faces. They can't stand in judgment of police. The problem with that assertion is that the trauma is the community. And it ignores the long-standing problems in America, not only in Anne Arundel County or the city of Annapolis or Baltimore or wherever, that for so long, the least of them have been affected by poor policing, brutal policing, have done the bidding when other parts of society didn't step up to the plate and help deal with some of these social problems that police have to face each and every day. So I think that since this process has been in place, since the law has been in place, it's professionalized not only us, I see it everywhere. It's professionalized policing in Maryland. It's so sad as I look at it in retrospect that George Floyd, the in custody death of George Floyd, murder, whatever you want to call it, just a death that shouldn't have occurred at the hands of law enforcement, occurred and revolutionized the way we, do law enforcement. I was critical of it at first because I thought it took too much power away from the police chief, power in the sense that we couldn't regulate the behavior of our department, but it did something that I didn't expect. What it did do is hold the officers more accountable. It held police chiefs accountable to think before they react, to evaluate, to analyze, to scrutinize before we open our mouths to take a position one way or another. And that's been healthy. So I think it's my only criticism of the Accountability Act of 2021 is that going back to what I originally said, it's an unfunded mandate. And any administrator will tell you that they're always very difficult to implement because finding the money and the support and getting councils and budget committees to understand and see the value of what you're trying to accomplish is not as easy as it sounds. So I just want to thank you. Again, I'd like to thank the men and women of the APD. I would be remiss if I took all the credit for everything that we do. Again, I thank Rhonda McCoy, and she will truly be missed. She's going to be a tough act to follow. So I hope that the next person that we get, it's my prayer that they will be just as engaged as Rhonda McCoy has been. And I just look forward to providing better policing because most cops in America want better policing. I'll stand on that until the day I leave this earth. Not all cops are bad. Not all of them come work with an agenda, a nefarious agenda. Most just want to protect and serve. How we engage them when they come in, how we socialize them when we come in often determines, what type of cop they're going to be. And then it's our obligation, if they come in with a predisposition to do harm, then we have to get right on those red flags or early warning signs and take the appropriate action. So I thank you again.
Thank you very much, Chief Jackson, and thank you for letting us all know that Rhonda will be retiring. She certainly will be missed. We have enjoyed collaborating with her and working with her as we've all moved forward to help, implement this new law faithfully. So thank you for that. Any questions for Chief Jackson? Okay. All right, we'll move on. Sorry, I muted myself. We'll move on to Sheriff Sesker. Sheriff Sesker, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening.
Well, thank you for having me. How is everybody? Hope everybody's fine. A little bit about myself. So I started in law enforcement also in 1990, and I started with Prince George's County. I retired there at the rank of major. I held several positions there. I was the commander of the Training Academy, Narcotic Enforcement Division, Community Service Division. I was XO at different periods in my career. And when I retired, I thought I was done with law enforcement, but I wasn't. So after the Freddie Gray incident, there was a change in law enforcement, and they wanted more oversight. So I was appointed by Governor Hogan to be the executive director of the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission. So I was the first person to hold that post. So what I saw throughout the state was there was a desire for officers to have good training and do what's right. I held that position for a while, and then I moved on, and I started doing consulting across the state for local government insurance trust. And local government insurance trusts, they only insure governments, whether it be counties, cities, any municipalities, only in the state of Maryland. During that time, I was involved in the Anton Black incident because I provided counseling and training for the town of Greensboro to help them deal with that incident. So I saw that there was still need, and I saw that there was a need for additional oversight. So for me, the creation of the PAB is a welcome. It's a welcome to me. When I ran for sheriff here in Anne Arundel County, I saw that there were many needs, but one of the biggest needs was there was not an internal affairs section in the sheriff's office. So that was one of my cornerstones. I said, if I win, I'm going to create this internal affairs section here. So of course I won. And what you see right now is what has been created since I've taken office. We have an Office of Professional Compliance. And what I did there was we did not have a captain in the position, and now we have Captain Van Orsdale sitting to my left. It was just a corporal who did an excellent job, but I felt as though we needed to add a sense of credibility to the office, and we needed to add a sense of when citizens come in, they can talk to somebody with authority. Again, when I took over, the investigations were conducted right in my immediate office, my outer office. So I said, citizens cannot come there to file a complaint. So we moved them to another facility, which is easier for citizens to get into, to make a complaint. And one of the things I did also was we took our body worn camera section and we put it underneath the Office of Professional Compliance. Because what I said with body worn cameras is not just enough to view an incident after something happened. I said we should review them on a continuous basis, because I believe that if we can get to a deputy fast enough while he's committing a mistake, it can possibly just be a training issue. But if it continues on, then it's going to become a criminal issue. So it is our thought process that we'll review them on a regular basis. And if need be, we'll get with the deputy or whoever if we see a problem area that can possibly be resolved through training. I also noticed that with the sheriff's office, we have very little community involvement, at least back then. So what I did right off the bat was I invited the NAACP, the United Black Clergy, Caucus of African American Leaders, and some other local leaders. I invited them into the sheriff's office. And I showed them everything that we do and how we do it. I invited them into the lockup where we keep prisoners. I showed them how we transport prisoners. I showed them how we do evictions and how we even serve civil process. Because what I wanted to do was, if there is a problem in the way that we do things, let's try to resolve it now. Let's try to work out the kinks so we can get that resolved now and we can continue on. I don't want to have to call on the stakeholders when something goes bad. So to this day, I keep the communication open, lines of communication. I have not met with the new president of the NAACP as of yet, but that meeting is coming, Mr. Waddy. But with all the other leaders, we keep the line of communication open. I go to their meetings. Another thing that I said, we need to open up the line of communications with the community itself. So a lot of people are surprised to see me show up for different events. We've participated in numerous parades. We've had, during the school year, we'll participate in backpack or events that give away things to the community. We also do an annual Halloween festival type thing where we invite the kids in, invite the kids to our facility, and we hand out candy. And it's just a way so they can get to know who we are. And if they have a problem with us, they can develop good contact points. Another thing that we're doing coming up on September the 30th, which is a big thing for us, is we're having a Purple Lights event. Now, this is dealing with domestic violence, and we're doing this in coordination with the Prince George's County Sheriff's Office and the Charles County Sheriff's Office. And we're going to talk about domestic violence. We're going to introduce people to different ways that if they need help or anything like that. We got different sponsors coming out. We got the YWCA going to be there. The governor is even coming out. He's going to speak, so I'm very happy with that. And again, this is just ways that we're changing the sheriff's office to show that we are a government entity that's responsive to the needs of the community. As far as the complaint process goes, again, with the PAB, I think this is needed. I think it is needed because we should have oversight, you know, whether it be a quasi-military organization or a military organization. There is always civilian oversight to ensure that things are done in a proper and effective manner to ensure the safety of everyone. So I hope I was able to answer some of your questions, how I feel about it, and tell you a little bit about myself.
Thank you so much, Sheriff
Thank you.
Sesker. Thank you so much for that background and reminding us of, you know, where the sheriff's office was when you took over and, you know, how far you've come in making all of these changes and being more community oriented.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sheriff Sesker? All right, we'll go to Chief Caphammer from Anne Arundel County Community College. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Oh, hi, thanks for having me. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Sean Caphammer, and I've been the police chief at Anne Arundel Community College for the past 8 years. Some of the things I did in the past, I did 21 years with the Baltimore City Police Department. I was a police chief up in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for 3 years, and I also worked at Loyola University, Maryland for 3 years as their Deputy Director of Public Safety. So by far, this has been my favorite assignment, and I believe it's because I get so much time to interact with the campus community, more so than many of my other assignments, except perhaps in Loyola, which was very similar. I was asked to give my feelings about the implementation of this new law. So I will have to say I'm very familiar with the system in theory, but maybe not in practice because we've not had a complaint, you know, knock on wood. And I don't think that's luck. I think it's because we try to go out there and do the right thing every day and have a lot of different community-oriented programs for the students and the faculty and staff. I do think that the whole idea and concept of the PAB is good and it's needed. But I say I have not had the personal experience of having to go through the entire process myself. And honestly, hopefully we never have to go through that. I don't know, you know, I'm sure we'll get a complaint sooner or later. And we're ready for that. We have all our policies and procedures in place, and all our officers have been trained. So we know what to do in case, you know, we do get a complaint. But It's about really all I had. If anybody had any questions of me, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you so much, Chief Caphammer. Any questions for the chief? We'll keep knocking on wood that you don't get complaints, but you know, your colleagues can certainly, some of your colleagues can help walk you through the process if you get stuck anywhere.
I'm sure they can.
All right, and then last but not least, Chief Jet from the Crofton Police Department. Welcome. Thank you for being here this evening.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
As I said, good evening. And like I said, thanks for having me as well. Of course, I'm always here and I love to be here because I like to be involved in some of these activities that we're doing. As far as the Police Accountability Board goes, we've had a lot of success and with working together. I know I constantly reach out to both Moya and Jeanette with my questions and different things. And of course, Jennifer Rogers guides me along the way as well. It was interesting because when I took this over 2 years ago, it was sort of around the inception time of this was coming on board as far as, you know, being responsible for these complaints and everything else. And I was kind of blindsided by it initially. I mean, I knew it was in existence, but I didn't know anything about it. And luckily enough, the PAB was generous enough to explain a lot of it to me and walk me through the process. But not only that, Chief Awad's staff and Sheriff Sesker's staff, I mean, they took me by the hand and guided me and said, this is what we do. Now, granted, we're a 5-man police department, so we don't limited resources here. So we can't come up with fancy pie graphs and, you know, that kind of good stuff and everything else, but we do what we do. And we openly communicate with the PAB and make sure that we are doing the right thing. And so far, we've been very lucky with that. But initially, since the Police County Board became part of this process, we've had a total of 4 complaints. 2 went to the ACC and were unfounded, and 2 were handled in-house that didn't even reach the level of being in front of the PAB or ACC. They were notified about them, but of course we handled those in-house. But out of the 4, all of them were unfounded. So we're very lucky in that way. I think we've had one that's, I don't know the process behind this. It'd probably be one of my questions sometime this evening. But we had one of the complainants reach out and want to withdraw it after the fact. I don't know how that works. I don't even know if there's a process for that. But yeah, just speaking, and even as Chief Jackson had stated that, you know, with getting resources to dedicate to the Police Accountability Board and the restrictions on us, because like I said, we're a 5-man police department. We get a complaint. It takes time. It takes my officers off the street to investigate. I'm investigating. So it restricts us some in some of the things we do, but for the most part, it's been a great process. And I love to see the community back involved with the police department here. That was one thing that was lacking here probably since I took over. I noticed there was no connection with the police department, the community. We've engaged in so many community events. We're constantly on our social media platforms. We're out of the cars. We have 2 elementary schools that are within a mile of each other in our jurisdiction. And we are in those because I believe we start at a young age. We try and get in there with the kids and say, we're your friends. If you need us, we're not bad guys. We're here to help you, you know, and it's really helped us in the community with some of the outreach programs we've done and so forth and so on. But it's one of the main goals I like is to catch them while they're young, to say, there's the positive message. The police are here to help you. They're not here to hurt you, and don't be afraid of us. But just a little bit about me. I've been in law enforcement for 22 years. I spent, almost 27 years. I spent 22 years with the sheriff's office here in the county, and I've now been here 5 years, 2 years as chief of police. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing from this aspect of the administrative side. I was a patrol guy. I love to patrol. I was boots on the ground guy. So it's been a transition for me as well to come to this role. But like I said, I believe we really got a good grasp on what we're doing here. And we're very happy with the whole process of the Police Accountability Board and holding our officers accountable for any misconduct that's going on out there. Luckily, like I said, I have a well-trained professional staff on board, and I'm very happy with what they do on the streets by their communication, the way they're handling different things. And I have no complaints as far as that goes. I think the only issue I have is I think there's a couple little things that could be addressed with the Police Accountability Board moving forward, as far as we've always come to these weird, terms of what equals a complaint. You know what I'm saying? What actually comes to that level that equals a complaint, or should it even be addressed at this particular point in time, or can it be handled in-house, or why does it go to this level? Or that's one of the things I finally constantly question when the complaints come in, and sometimes they're vague in nature, and you're like, I don't know how to address this, but I'll do it the best I can. And that's mainly what we've been doing to survive is, addressing it the best we can, make sure we're being transparent, putting the information out there, because that's in the end, that's what it's all about, being transparent to the public and answering these people's complaints when they have concerns about police misconduct. But I don't have anything else at this time that I can think of. So I'm going to turn it back over to you guys. Any questions? I'll be more than happy to answer. But thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Chief Jett, and love hearing that you've been able to partner with some of our other agencies when you've had questions. I mean, I think if anything, that's been maybe one of the real positives of the Police Accountability Act, that it's kind of forced agencies to collaborate more and work together, and more communication. So that's always great to hear. We have lots of amazing resources within the 5 agencies in the county. And to your point about some of the things that we question, you're not alone. I think Moya and Tom, were you at the statewide meeting that they held in the winter, and all the agencies from around the state were there, and you can ask 50 agencies and you might get 47 different answers on like whether or not something rises to a complaint. So those are some of those things, right? As we get the Police Training and Standards Commission more involved in providing training to the PABs and the ACCs and the agencies. I mean, that's a big heavy lift for them as well, and more cases come forward. There's definitely, AG's opinion that's a little bit, has opined that the law needs to be viewed in a certain way that maybe perhaps upon reading, certain language, folks would not have thought. So those are all things that you're definitely, just to say that you are not alone with that, because people are still learning and just trying to the best that they can. But I think that's where that collaboration is really important too, because, if another agency has seen some of these things and, they're consistently, investigating or dealing with complaints in a certain manner, that could be very helpful. Any questions for Chief Jett?
Just really quickly in reference to that, Jennifer Rogers already emailed me the thing that fast, to withdraw complaints or whatever else. So that's professionalism right there. Boom, you guys are on top
It's
of it. So I
amazing.
love it.
She doesn't want us to say it, but Jennifer holds us all accountable. She keeps us all straight, and we are very, very, very grateful to her.
Absolutely.
We couldn't do it without her. So thank you for acknowledging that. So I know, we put the Chief Jett, because I know it's you doing the report later too, but if the other chiefs need to jump off, we understand. We put you early in the meeting in the event that you had to head out. So thank you again for being here this evening. Just one more time for board members, if there were any questions or comments for the chiefs or Sheriff Sesker. All right, I don't see any hands, but thank you for being here. And, we really appreciate the work that you're doing. We love hearing about the collaboration. I'm happy, delighted to know that we can also be a resource to you too. I know Miss Panda and Miss Rogers are amazing. I try to be, and Tom, with like looking at the law, and, Jen just sent you, what you do with withdrawal, Tom and Amoya will review the law and make sure that we're interpreting things correctly. So we want to be a resource for you as well. So happy to hear that, we've been able to do so with some of your agencies. Well, with that, thank you again. And if you need to jump off, we completely understand. We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. And that is an update from the Administrative Charging Committee, the chair, Lisa Sneed. Thank you so much for being here this evening. As you know, the Administrative Charging Committee is the body that is responsible for then reviewing investigations and basically making the ultimate determination on how, a complaint should be handled, and whether there needs to be I keep saying punishment, and that is not the word I want to use, but there's a consequence for an officer. And so I mean, we've had a lot of stuff. We've been building the plane as we're flying it, but the ACC has truly had a lot of work. They are so busy, which is why it's so difficult to find someone from the PAB as a designee. And so Jennifer, we appreciate you for being willing to do that. Sarah Kibet, who was on the board previously, was my designee. And so just Lisa, thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing, because we recognize it's a lot of work. It's a lot. You're doing a lot of reading, you're viewing footage, you guys are meeting constantly. And so I don't think people really understand the level of work and your feedback, and you're helping the agencies improve and be even better and better on how they're sharing information, how they're conducting their investigations. So thank you for being here this evening and for providing us an update on the work that you're doing. She is still muted.
Yeah, Lisa, we can't hear you.
Are you able to unmute her phone? Because I know the computer's been, let me see. Oh, there we go. I think you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, and thank you, Madam Chair Ortiz and members of the Police Accountability Board and the public for being here. I'm also really grateful that the chiefs were here, so because I got to hear from them, and so that was really delightful just to hear their introductions and what they're doing. And while Madam Ortiz, gave you guys permission to jump off, I'm actually happy that some of you are still here, so you can kind of hear and see what we're doing. So I am Lisa Smead, and I am a member as well as the chairperson of the Administrative Charging Committee for our county. And I'm here this evening. I'm just going to give you a short overview of who we are, what we do, and to kind of highlight a couple of the concerns that have actually come out of the ACC, and just kind of share with you some of the things that we've actually done this year. And afterwards, if you guys have any questions, then I'll do my best to try to answer them. But the full summary, and I guess I think we have a PowerPoint. I don't know how to pull it up or put it in the chat.
I've got
I can
it.
kind of talk my way through it.
Yeah, I've got it, Lisa. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And then,
okay.
Can you see that? Just tell me when to skip forward.
So yeah, you can go forward. You can go, yeah. So just a kind of a brief summary of what we do. So we are the actual charging committee. So while the Police Accountability Board exists as the oversight body of the charging committee, we're the ones who are making the disciplinary decisions that are related to the citizen-involved complaints against officers of those 5 local law enforcement agencies that just spoke. So I'm happy that you guys are here so that you can kind of see who we are. You can move, Jen. So we are composed of 5 members, and the 5 members, we're pretty statutory. So we're all appointed or placed in our positions. One of our members is actually either the PAB chair or the PAB chair's designee. In this case, it's the PAB chair's designee, Jennifer Mont. And 2 of our members are appointed by the Police Accountability Board, and then 2 of our members are appointed by the county executive. To move forward. So the ACC has a chairperson, which is statutory, and a vice chair. And the vice chair is, because it's non-statutory and selected through the bylaws, we may or may not have a vice chairman at the time. And currently there is no vice chair. I am serving as our chair, and we will have a new chair once my term has concluded. The members go through training, and that training is conducted by the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission. It is usually a 5-day training. It's conducted over a over a 5-day work week. And as you might guess, some of us work full-time jobs during the day. So as an example, I work a full-time job. I had to actually take off for an entire week so that I could get the training. The training, I would say, if I could describe it, is very intensive, but it's also interactive and thorough. So I think it's good training. I don't think that I encountered any members who had any bad experiences with the training. Let's talk a little bit about how we operate. And we have yeah, thank you for showing the matrix. And it's a pretty involved matrix. And so as you can see in the chart here, there are 5 groups at the top. We start with the Police Accountability Board, the Law Enforcement Agency, the Administrative Charging Committee, and then the Trial Board. And sometimes the first and the last may not necessarily be fully involved in the process of a complaint. But the complaints start with the Police Accountability Board or the law enforcement agency itself receiving the complaint. If the Police Accountability Board gets the complaint, then they forward it to the law enforcement agency, and they do that within 3 days. If the law enforcement agency itself receives the complaint, then it moves it to the investigative stage. And so once the complaint is fully investigated, then it is forwarded to us, the Administrative Charging Committee, and that's really where the work starts to happen with respect to the complaint. And just to share with you, the ACC, when we receive complaints, and sometimes they can be very involved, and I'll use Anne Arundel County Police Department as an example. We can sometimes get as many as 10 to 15 videos, body-worn camera videos to just watch. And I've seen body-worn camera videos, minimum of, say, an hour and a half to as short as maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But imagine getting a case and having to go through each one of those body-worn camera videos, in addition to reading the investigative report and then reading all the other reports that are attached to that. But we do this because that is what the process involves. And so each one of these members, I think, are to be commended for the time that they spend working on complaints that, again, can be so involved. But once we review the investigative file, we determine one of 2 things, whether or not the officer is charged or not charged. And if the officer isn't charged, then we, all agree that that officer will not be administratively charged. And then we issue a written opinion, and we detail the findings, and we send those back to the law enforcement agency. We have to do this within 1 year and 1 day, which is what the statute requires. And if we decide that the officer is going to be charged, well, again, that's a little bit more involved because it involves us going to the state police disciplinary matrix and making a few decisions. What level of the charge, what level is involved in the charge, what the penalty is going to be, and other recommendations as the case may be. And when we make those recommendations, we forward those back to the chief of the law enforcement agency, and the chief is getting from us a recommendation. The chief is the person who is making the decision. The chief will either accept our recommendations and issue their determination based on our recommendation, and that, or the chief can move to a higher level, but the chief cannot go to a level less than the recommendation of the ACC. And then if the officer accepts that recommendation, then the case is over, it's final. But if the officer does not accept, then the matter is forwarded to a trial board for a hearing. And again, the trial board can go, one of 2 ways. If the officer accepts the determination of the trial board, the case is over and their decision is final. But if the officer does not accept the recommendation or the decision, of the trial board, then they can appeal to the circuit court for the county. In our case, Anne Arundel County. And so as you can see, we can move to the next slide, Jen. We basically go through this 5 two-part process. The complaint is made against the officer, the law enforcement agency investigates, the ACC makes a decision. If the officer is charged, then the head of the department will issue discipline, and then the officer doesn't have to accept the discipline. The officer can take the matter to the trial board. Again, these things need to happen within 1 year and 1 day after the complaint is filed. And then just so that you are aware, our process begins when the law enforcement agency transfers the investigative file to the committee members. One thing that we are blessed with, and you can move to the next slide, Jen, is the Axon Evidence software. It is really comprehensive. We really appreciate getting it because it helps us to see all of the things. One of the, I guess, what we've been unfortunate to have is the opportunity to print anything out. We do understand and respond. We respect the confidential nature of the process, and so we don't print out anything, but because you can't print out anything from the Axon Evidence software. But with each one of those investigative files, we start off with the assessment. You can move, Jen. And the assessment is when the ACC members are asked to review and assess the case independently. And again, because these cases can be so involved and so lengthy, we really are asking our 5 members to come to the meeting ready to discuss the case. So the case has been fully reviewed by the time we all sit down and convene and discuss the case. We can move to the next slide. So the deliberation process, because the assessment process is so lengthy and because members are, using the time they are away from us to review the case, once we come together, we're ready to make some decisions. And so the members convene to share their own preliminary determinations, and then we discuss the case. And then if necessary, we request additional information. We try not to have to do that, but again, because we want to be fair to the process, we want to be fair not only to the officer, but we want to be fair to the complainant. And so in doing that, sometimes we have to go back and request additional information. But once we get all of that information, we make a determination. And we conduct a formal vote, and we use Robert's rules when we do that, and we adopt a motion, and the decision for us is final. We can go to the next slide. So for the violations, we do one of two things. And so usually when we deliberate, the question is, are we going to charge or are we not going to charge? If we decide to charge, again, we're using that Maryland Police Disciplinary Matrix, and it's going to show us the violation category, the category level. We discuss whether or not there are mitigating or aggravating factors that should be considered if we are disciplining the officer. So as an example, a mitigating or an aggravating factor might be the amount of time that the officer has been on the force. So if the officer has been on the force for 20 years, we might say, well, that's a mitigating factor. At the same time, it could be an aggravating factor because you would expect that the officer might know better depending on what the conduct is. We determine the discipline for the officer. So the disciplinary matrix will lay out what the levels of discipline can be. And then we also determine whether or not corrective measures are needed. So if there is additional training that might be necessary, we will talk about that as well. If we decide that we're not administratively charging, we also have to determine whether or not the allegation is unfounded or if the officer should be exonerated. And there have been a number of discussions on those two terms because we are new to this process. And so we've had, thankfully, the law enforcement agencies come in and help explain to us what exonerated and unfounded mean. And for the PAB's purposes, unfounded and exonerated. At the end of the day, they end up with the officer not being administratively charged, but exonerated. The way that we've been taught to understand it, it simply means that even if the officer engaged in the conduct, and we'll use a use of force as an example, the question is whether or not that use of force was reasonable and within the regulations and the law. And if the use of force was reasonable and within the regulations of the law, we were deciding not only to not administratively charge, but to exonerate the officer. But if there's not enough evidence to determine whether or not the officer is actually even involved in this thing that is the basis of the complaint, then we unfound the allegation. So it again, at the end of the day, they mean the same thing because the officer is not being charged. Can we go to the next slide? As I talked a lot just a few minutes ago about the Maryland Police State Disciplinary Matrix, it has been very helpful to us. The last publication of that matrix was June 9, 2022. And so it is the most up-to-date document that we have. There are 6 categories that we go from A to F, A being the lowest, and then F being the highest. A is, so as you can see on the slide here, it's conduct that has or may have a minimal negative impact on operations or professional image of the law enforcement agency. And the penalty can be as low as a counseling letter, but it can be as much as up to 1 day loss of leave or loss of pay. But once we get to the 3rd violation, we have to move to category B. And again, like I said, there's 6 categories. And so they go from category A, which is, again, the lowest penalty being a counseling letter, to category F, which is the loss of employment with the agency. And what stands out is how this category is characterized in the language of the matrix. It basically says, any violation of the law, rule, policy, or regulation that foreseeably results in death or serious bodily injury or constitutes a willful and wanton disregard of the law enforcement agency's mission, vision, and values, or involves any act or omission which demonstrates a serious lack of integrity. And I like the words that are used here: ethics or character related to an officer's or employee's fitness to hold the position, or involves egregious misconduct substantially contrary to the standards of conduct reasonably expected, to include those whose sworn duty is to uphold the law. And so the point being that an officer has to have really demonstrated a serious lack of integrity when this penalty happens, and it can happen. And while it says there are mitigating factors and aggravating factors, I mean, once the officer is recommended for dismissal from the position, I don't know how much those help or hurt the officer in the process, but those are the ranges that we go through when we talk about these cases. We can go to the next slide, Jen. So that written determination is then sent to all of the relevant parties. So the law enforcement agency head, the chief of police, the officers that are accused, they also get a copy of the determination. And then the complaining party, they also get a copy of the determination. Being, again, mindful of the rules in the law on personnel records. The ACC is a public body, and so one of the questions that is asked often is, why aren't the deliberations public? They're not public because the law does not allow them to be public. There is a statutory requirement, you can go to the next slide, that we maintain the confidentiality of the proceedings. So the deliberations, they're conducted in accordance with the Maryland Code General Provisions Article 3-305B1 and 3-305B13. What have we done so far? Well, let me tell you. We have, to date, a total of 93 cases, and just for understanding of, how we get to 93, we started deliberations. I think our first deliberations were around May of 2023. There's a total of 129 officers that have been involved, a total of 221 charges, and then currently there are 3 pending cases, and this is all as of last week. I'm sorry, yeah, these are all very recent, and then there are 7 pending charges coming forward. And
Let me
you can
just
go to
jump
the
in real
next
quick.
slide, Jen.
Yeah, let me just jump in real quick. Those numbers are still accurate as of today. There's been no movement, so.
Thank you for, see how helpful Jen is? Thank you for that. And just so that you see our pie chart here, most of the outcomes are that the officer is not administratively charged. So 26% of those are unfounded, another 43% are exonerated. But there is 1/3 where we do administratively charge. And so to the law enforcement agencies that were here talking today, while we have done a lot of great work, there is still much work yet to be done. But we seem to be off to a very good start. The aging summary, you can go to the next slide. So the average turnaround for the ACC is 19 days. So once we get a case and we review the case and then we turn the case around, it's a 19-day time period. The average case at the age of submission, though, is 177 days. And one of them, when I was scheduled to present here, I asked our members of the ACC if there was anything that they wanted me to discuss. And one of the things that they talked about was the time period with which the cases are coming to us. And so we just want to encourage the law enforcement agencies to get them to us a little bit more timely. We recognize that there's a lot of work in what you do, and we appreciate that work. So I don't want to sound like we are unappreciative of the time that goes into this, but the law has given us 1 year and 1 day to close out these cases. So if we get a case on January 1st, the complaint is given to us on January 1st, 2025, it needs to be resolved January 2nd, 2026, a year and a day. So those are just some of the things that we wanted to share with you all today. We, again, appreciate the hard work that has gone into this. And as you can see, the majority of our officers are really doing great work. Most of these cases, again, come back with not being administratively charged. I am not aware, and I probably should be, but I'm not aware where we had an officer that has gone to a trial board. That's possible that they have, and that might be a Jen question if you have it. But I just wanted to share those things with you, and I am available if you have questions. And I appreciate you for listening to me this evening.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was amazing. Thank you so much for that very, very thorough presentation. I love a visual, so that's really helpful to see, the data and have that information and give us, those of us who are, not involved directly with the ACC, a peek into the work, the very hard work that you are doing. And again, thank you, and to your colleagues on the ACC for all those many, many, many hours of dedication that they've volunteered, to do and to work on. And the word is discipline. I keep wanting to say punishment. I need to look into why, but discipline. I wrote myself a note on my notes, discipline, and I highlighted it. So, but yes, disciplinary determinations. But thank you for all your hard work. Are there any questions for Lisa?
One more thing.
You had,
One more thing.
go ahead, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I want to encourage the chiefs. I want to encourage you where you have cases where there is a recommendation from another officer. I want to encourage you where you have body-worn camera footage to look at it yourself. I just want to encourage you there to look at it yourselves. And the reason I want to encourage you on that front is because sometimes when law enforcement officers are reporting one another, that's a concern. Like law enforcement officers, I think Chief Jackson was the one who said it, you know, law enforcement officers want to work with officers who have integrity. And so that's a very big deal to them. And so if they're making a report, I want to just encourage the chiefs to not just sign off on the recommendations that come from your investigative team, but look at a video yourselves. That is all.
thank you.
Can I ask if that material can be forwarded to me, that presentation?
Yeah, it's no problem.
I
I'll
think
send it to you.
Okay, you guys
Jen's
have my
got you.
email. It was good stuff. I'd like to have that, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions from board members, agencies?
One quick comment, if I may.
Yeah,
Recently, an officer who had a determination from the ACC approached me, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is a bad situation. But I got to tell you, the officer was very pleased with the outcome. The officer stated that the process was fair. It was uncomfortable for the officer, but the officer said they're better for it and they appreciated the process. So I do want to pass that information on back to the ACC. Your work is meaningful. It will make a difference, and it's appreciated. And it sometimes is difficult, but good people sometimes do bad things. Both things could be true. They're a good person, but you did something you shouldn't. So that comment just came back to me recently. I'm not going to say what agency, but it made me smile on the inside. So your work is being seen.
thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
that. Any other questions or comments for Lisa? I see Rhonda.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Rhonda.
You do. I just wanted to, again, express the gratitude for you all, the work that you all do, and and the precision that you do it in. That being said, I was going to wait for the presentation, but now is the perfect time for me to do this. To make a recommendation, to the PAB. We did have some cases that went to trial board, and I did have a concern about the civilian members and their lack of training, that they don't have the amount of training that you guys get. And that presentation kind of highlighted that, all the things that you do, what you consider the importance of the matrix, and how you go through the matrix, and how you determine, what discipline, an individual is supposed to have and where it's supposed to fall, and especially if it's specifically enumerated under that matrix, so I kind of had some concerns about when you go to trial boards, and and each agency has their own trial board process, and in Annapolis it is de novo, meaning that it begins, again. But when that occurs, that I'm always secure that when things go over to you guys, to the ACC, that you're going to consider it, using the law and using the matrix. But I'm very concerned about the lack of training that the civilian member gets for the trial board. That you all went through so much. You went through mock training. You got 40 hours of of training to be able to do this, and they don't get that, and that is a gap. And that you guys write such beautiful reports at the end of the year. I'm really hoping, that you can kind of look into that, and kind of see, if, that, is, something that we, that we want to look at, that training, that they should get additional training. I want to also take this time to say it has been my esteemed pleasure to work with each and every one of you. And new members, welcome, to the process. This is, I think that, as everyone said, the system in Anne Arundel County works flawlessly. Our agencies kind of work together. We assist and help one another. We've gotten, wonderful, ideas from Anne Arundel County, and we've sat and collaborated with one another. We've also collaborated and and met with the sheriff's office around this process. So I think in Anne Arundel County, we got it going on here. And that, it is a really, really good system. And, we're happy, that we have the board that we have, and we thank you all for your service. I also want to tell our esteemed Madam Chair, as Chief Jackson always says, discipline, yes, this is for discipline, and discipline is restorative, but there is room for punishment. Punishment is F. We can't do anything with you, so we have to punish you. And I'll leave you with that.
Thank you. Thank you for your insight. Thank you. I will remember that. The punishment, there is punishment, but not all of these cases will end in a punishment. Thank you, Rhonda, for that insight. Appreciate it. Any questions or comments for Lisa? All right. Well, thank you again so much. We know that you'll be leaving the ACC. Is it next month?
Yes.
Yeah,
It is
well,
next month.
you will be missed. I know Lisa and I have been colleagues for a very long time, and she's just such an amazing attorney, so thoughtful, so insightful, so diligent about her work, so smart. And I know you'll be missed on the ACC. Hopefully, they'll be able to have someone try to fill your shoes. But I know we have Moya and Jen are going to be there too, kind of holding it down. But thank you for all of your hard work. I know it's been a lot, especially on the front end, where we were all just trying to learn. So, all right, well, you are welcome to stay, but we understand if you want to jump off. Thank you so much. All right, next we have Office of Police Accountability, Ms. Moya Panda, our Executive Director, with her updates. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? I'm testing out these headphones. Okay, perfect. Thanks. I want to thank Lisa again so much for presenting. It's just been a pleasure to work with her and the other members of the ACC, Jennifer Mutt as well. So just thank you so much for that presentation. And of course, we'll be happy to send that information on to whoever needs it. And just to answer Lisa's question, there has been 3 trial boards. As so far, only 2 have been involving cases that went through the ACC process. So just to let you all know that. And just piggybacking with what Rhonda just said, Sean, Jen, and I just went to a PAB training at the MPTSC last week. They are doing refresher courses for ACC members as well. I will follow up with Wayne Silver to see if they're doing any refresher courses for the citizen members of the trial board. As you know, in Anne Arundel County, we did train 13 citizens in Anne Arundel County to serve on the trial board, but that was a while ago. So I will see if they're going to offer any refresher courses for these civilian members, just like they're doing for the ACC members, and I'll get back to you for the November meeting. And I'm not sure if Sean is still on. I was trying to look to see if she wanted to mention her time last week at the PAB training. If she can't get off mute, that's okay, but I don't see a hand or anything yet. So she may be unable to get off mute, but she's listening in via phone. But we did, again, had training last week at the MBTSC, and we had colleagues from around the state, from Carroll County to Howard County, Baltimore City, Worcester County. It was just good to get along, see everyone and see how the process has been working. As you know, the PAB did not receive any training when the law was enacted. So it was good for the PAB members to see how to use a disciplinary matrix, what the ACC is doing. So it was really great that they've decided to offer that training now. I know we have the more reports to do, so I just wanted to let you all know that I will be attending the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, otherwise known as NACOL conference in October. So after I come back from that conference, I will present my report at the November meeting. And I have nothing else to present, Madam Chair. If anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Moya, for that update. Sean could not get herself off mute, but she did text that the training was great. She loved it. She thought it was very informative. So thank you so much for that feedback. Sorry you're having technical issues. Any questions for Miss Panda? All right, we'll jump into the agency updates, and just briefly for our newest members and for members of the public who may be watching this for the first time, in accordance with the 2021 law, the agencies are required to report to the PAB on a quarterly basis. And so quarterly, they come and present to us and provide information on, basically data and statistics on complaints that they've received, any trends that they're seeing. And they oftentimes also share just any updates, anything new happening in their agencies, any, information that would be helpful or of interest to us. And so we will start with Chief Jett with the Crofton Police Department.
All right, I'm back again. How are you guys? Anyway, let's get back into this complaint thing. I know since we last talked, we had just one complaint. That was a reference to I believe it was a DUI stop where I believe the father of the suspect made the complaint, say that we had violated his son's rights. Didn't really say how, didn't really specify what the initial complaint was about. It was a little bit of confusion on our part. We went back and forth with, I guess, the PAB to initiate it as far as what we were actually complaining about here. And then we finally came to the determination. We just listed all of the normal rights that were out there and that nothing was violated from my perspective. And I know Lisa had said from the ACC said that she wanted the chiefs more involved in this. I touch every investigation that comes through here because we're so small. I don't have a choice, but I make sure that I am hands-on with it from the beginning to the end. My Sergeant Sims, he does probably most of the investigations unless one is on him and then I handle it. So, but either way, we are both involved from top to bottom when the process comes through, especially reviewing body camera footage, because I want to make sure my guys are doing the right thing out there. And if I see anything that's, questionable or could maybe come down to a training issue or whatever else it is, we're going to address it right off the bat. But I do like to report October 1, we will finally be fully staffed. It's such a struggle here with getting a qualified law enforcement officers nowadays, don't want to come back and work, either where they're retired or want to come from different agencies. Like I said in the past, we had a lot of applicants, but we also had a lot of baggage along with them that we didn't want to entertain. We didn't think they'd be a good fit for the Crofton Police Department, because if you already have some kind of history out there, we'd rather have that candidate that's, doesn't have that kind of history or baggage or investigation from other police departments or open investigations. We're just not going to take that on board. Like I said, I made a commitment to the community to find, qualified law enforcement officers for this community because we're so small that everybody knows everybody here. So I didn't want to entertain that. And that's why, like I said, we have our 5th and final slot filled October 1, and we're just excited about that. So come a long way. And I think one of the other things in the past, this police department used to hide inside its tax district. we never went outside the jurisdictional boundaries of the Crofton Triangle or their special tax district. I've done my best to improve that and our relationships with Western District County Police, because that's who we work with. And I got a pretty good relationship going on with Captain McFarland over there. And my guys are now going out of their jurisdiction and out in the David One posts and helping as much as they can, because those guys are swamped with calls. And we try to help out the best we can. We'll take reports from them. We'll do whatever we can. And we're trying to merge that brotherhood back together again. We're trying to put Crofton Police Department back on the map, and people know that we exist, because it's funny. I'll go out of the jurisdiction, or I'll be close to my home over in Arundel. And they'll be like, there's a Crofton Police Department? And yes, there is. Like I said, there's not many of us, but we're trying to do our best in expanding our horizons here and trying to be more involved in the community and help our local law enforcement agencies, because they've helped us so much. It's only fair that we do our part and try and help them. But yeah, that's really all I have as far as that one complaint. That's the only thing we fielded at this particular point in time, and it was unfounded. And that's one of the ones that initially now wants to withdraw the complaint. So I know I got the process and stuff like that through Jennifer Rogers of how we could, I guess, investigate that or look at that. But yeah, since the hearing went forward and the court case went forward with the suspect, the father wanted to withdraw the complaint. So but that's all I have at this particular point in time. So I'll turn it back over to you guys. If any questions?
Thank you so much, Chief Jett. We are very excited that you will be full force as of October 1. We know this has been a long time coming, so happy that you have a fully staffed department. Any questions for Chief Jett? All right. Well, as always, you're welcome to stay, but we understand if you need to drop off. Next, Lieutenant Donato from Anne Arundel County Community College. Thank you for being here this evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm going to keep it very brief. I'm 33% of my manpower and the shift commander. We, as my chief mentioned, we have not had a complaint. If we have a complaint, we'll follow the procedures. I normally handle the complaints. And if you guys can forward that slide stuff to me, I'd really appreciate it. That was good stuff. So that's really all I have, if you have no questions of me.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Lieutenant Donato? Well, we will be sure that you get the ACC slide, and happy to know that, when we have other folks come and speak and present that, it's useful.
Very good stuff.
to the
Thank you.
Agencies. Great. Thank you so much. You're welcome to stay, and also understand if you need to jump off. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have the Sheriff's Office. So Sheriff Sesker, Captain Van Orsdale, and Corporal Gross.
Well, very good. The Sheriff's Office has received a total of 32 citizen complaints of misconduct involving members of the public since July 1st, 2022. That includes one complaint we got since the last meeting involving a deputy who failed to stop for a red light. On a positive note, we've gotten 3 compliments from citizens, including providing assistance to a motorist. One of the deputies was recognized for the level of expertise regarding service of court orders, and another one was recognized for professional service regarding this service of a court order. The trends we see in the Sheriff's Department involve minor traffic offenses. The sheriff has explained some of the community events that we've participated in since the last meeting. But I would like to say in particular that Sheriff Sesker is in the process of hiring an outside firm to update the Sheriff's Office general orders and procedures. This is vital in providing the deputies with the tools to execute their duties with current practices.
All right, I was typing. I had to get back to the screen. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
that update. Any questions for the Sheriff's Office? Well, thank you again for being here this evening. You are welcome to stay on, but understand if you need to jump off. Next, we have the Annapolis Police Department. I see Chief Jackson. I see Miss Rhonda McCoy. I see Sergeant Hipsky. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Please tell me how to say it correctly. I am very sensitive about pronouncing people's names correctly. And Lieutenant O'Herlihy, welcome.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. You're still muted, Rhonda.
I believe Lieutenant O'Herlihy and/or Sergeant Hipsky, who Lieutenant O'Herlihy is going to be our
Whoever
new
would like to
special
present,
standards
the
manager.
floor is yours.
I'm
Welcome.
here for the, I'm here for support. They will
Got
be
it.
giving you the report.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's already gone on to Lieutenant Hipsky, so he'll be the one doing the report. So.
JP, are you muted?
I'm muted, sorry. I'm my own sound issues, but Lieutenant Hipsky is having some audio issues, maybe something this evening because you're like the third or fourth person. The link must be haunted. Can you hear us, Lieutenant Hipsky? It almost looks like he's frozen.
It is. He
Yeah.
is.
All right, do you want me to jump to I can jump to Anne Arundel County Police Department. Why don't we do that? And then hopefully he can figure out the audio issues. So Anne Arundel County Police Department. So I see Chief Alwood is still with us, Captain Ashburn and Lieutenant Ott. Welcome and thank you for being here this evening.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Captain Ashburn of the Office of Professional Standards. Just a quick intro about myself is this is my first meeting. I've been assigned to the Office of Professional Standards by the Chief Alwood. I'm fortunate enough to have that faith in me to take over that role. I'm filling big shoes with Captain Timothy Schultz now being assigned to our Special Operations section. I've been in the department for 26 years. I've been in various assignments throughout the department, from narcotics to the special strategic patrol team now used to be TPU. I've worked narcotics as a lieutenant, patrol, community relations bureau. I was the commander of the Southern District, and now again I'm fortunate enough to be the commander of our Office of Professional Standards. I just wanted to talk real quick about some of our in-service training that we do. I think that was a question that was brought up last meeting. Our agency has a robust training program in place with a strong emphasis on both mandated and proactive training initiatives. Our cutting edge, high quality training academy, along with some of the best instructors in the country, are what make Anne Arundel County Police Department stand out over other agencies. Our in-service consists of 3 8-hour days for our officers and sergeants and 1 8-hour day for lieutenants and above. Outside of our in-service training, we have a separate day for our yearly handgun qualifications so we can cover more material during in-service training. By breaking down the training into structured in-service days along specific focus areas like handgun qualifications, scenario-based training, we ensure that our officers are well prepared for the challenges they face on a daily basis. There are mandates set by the Maryland Police Trainings Commission for training that take place on an annual basis, every 2 years and every 3 years. Additionally, we have things like TASER and our active bystandership for law enforcement recertifications with defensive tactics. Although they're not mandated, we also recertify those every year as well. We always go above and beyond covering mandated topics from the Maryland Police Training Commission and continuously focus on important topics to ensure our officers are aware of and trained in best practices. Our executive command staff always comes up with different mandates that they want implemented through the training division. Those lesson plans are formed and that training is also put out department-wide. An example of that is next year we'll be doing a version of responding to suicidal subjects. There's some new laws that are coming out with how we handle those situations. Our supervisors are being trained this year on that, and we're going to implement that into our training next year with our officers. We also focus on protests and car rallies, which are becoming more and more prevalent throughout the country. So we rely on best practices and our own training to make sure that we're handling those properly and within accordance in the law. Our training staff looks at issues and trends they've seen or heard of and to provide training to better prepare our officers. This is where our scenario-based training comes into play. It's usually derived from reviewing body cam footage or calls for services that we can keep up with the trends and best practices to make sure our officers are doing the right thing. Our Office of Professional Standards, we're always thinking globally and reviewing incidents and reviewing law constantly to ensure that we have the most up-to-date information to put out to our agency. We as an agency are always forward-thinking, trying to identify any plans for any issues or concerns that may occur in the future. And we are constantly changing and adapting to the new laws as they come about to ensure that we are doing the right thing as an agency and giving the community what they deserve. I'm going to pass it over to Lieutenant Ott for our report.
Good evening, members of the board. The Anne Arundel County Police Department, since the inception of the MPAA, has handled now a total of 141 complaints containing allegations of police misconduct. 100 of those involve the public. Since our last quarterly report, we've taken in 11 complaints. 8 of those involve a member of the public. We have not gotten any cases through mediation since our last meeting. However, that process still remains open. We have had 13 formal compliments come through the system. That is an increase since the last report. If you're aware, October 1st, new Senate bill goes into effect. It requires law enforcement agencies to formally track compliments. So we are now prepared for that law coming into place. We utilize our portal and storage in our IA Pro system so we can remain compliant. But by releasing that in preparation for the law, we have seen an increase of compliments coming in. So that's a positive aspect of that bill coming into place. As far as that, that's all on our data reporting, and I have nothing else.
Thank you both very much for all of that information. Incredibly helpful. We always love hearing about all the things that you're doing at the County Police Department. And great to hear that you're already ahead of the game with the compliment dashboard. We like to hear compliments too. I forgot to mention that earlier, but we know that we're here to have oversight over complaint and police accountability, but compliments are also important to share and to know. Any questions for the Anne Arundel County Police Department?
One quick comment. Yeah. Madam Chair, in Anne Arundel County, I think we had mentioned maybe the possibility of hearing from their subject matter experts that work with those individuals within our community that may be in crisis.
Yes.
Whether it's a mental health issue, whether it's a homeless issue, substance abuse. If we could hear from your subject matter experts, because I think you have a whole county perspective, and I think you have a really good team and access to that information. How do we listen to that community and attempt to make a difference and have a positive influence in that particular space? So I wanted to at least toss that out.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up again, Cedric. Absolutely. We are working on scheduling the crisis response team. We heard from them when we did the community training. I know you changed the name of the what was it? The Community Police Academy?
Yes.
The Community Police Academy, and then also they've spoken to the board in the past, but certainly now with new members, and it's so important the work that they do. They collaborate, I know from your agency, and obviously feel free to add to what I'm saying, collaborate with the crisis response team from the county. I know that the officers are very specially trained, those who work on this team. So yes, absolutely, we will be sure to get them before the PAB to share the wonderful work and important work that they're doing in the county. So thank you for that. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else. All right. Well, if no other questions or comments, thank you so much once again. Good to see you all. And again, you're welcome to stay or feel free to jump off. All right, we are going to go back to Annapolis Police Department. Lieutenant Hipsky, welcome.
Thank you. Am I broadcasting now?
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you.
excellent. Apologies for the audio issues before. A little bit of technical fix, and looks like we're back up and running. So the Annapolis Police Department since July 1 of 22 has received a total of 37 external complaints, with 5 of those complaints being from the last PAB meeting that was established. We have had a total of 13 of our cases were administratively charged, and 10 of those cases that we've had have been exonerated, with 2 of them actually, an additional 2 of them rather, being unfounded. We wanted to highlight a couple things in reference to the meeting after the statistics, or in reference to after the statistics, which is we have put together the PAB spreadsheet that should have been shared now with all the members of the board. So you should be able to see those external complaints in a log with the brief information and things like that. That should have gone out with probably an email advisement or something of that nature. Just to kind of go over a couple different things, we haven't seen any specific trends that we wanted to bring up. The 5 that we've had since the last meeting, we had a citizen who alleged that officers mishandled a call and lied. We had 2 vehicle ones, a speeding one and aggressive driving. And then we had one where a citizen advised or alleged that there was a mishandling of a call. And essentially kind of the same thing with the last one, which is an allegation that there was a assault that occurred, a first-degree assault that occurred, and the officers didn't assist. So those are the new ones that we have currently pending. Moving over to some of the compliments that we've received or things that we've done proactively. I did want to bring up that we had a critical incident that happened. I know that the mental health and well-being of the officers is something that we definitely want to highlight and talk about, that we take specific note of and we really work on. So for anybody that didn't hear the news, we had a 2-year-old that was struck by a vehicle last week. We had CIT that went out, and we also had our peer support go out and start trying to talk to the officers and things like that. That resulted in some of our officers even actually being taken back to the station specifically to be debriefed in reference to that. And then we had a shift debriefing after that as well for our peer support. I'm happy to report that we received a lot of positive feedback from officers who appreciated the efforts that were there for the support process. And we're doing some continual follow-up with officers for further issues and things like that to kind of assist with their mental well-being. That's in reference to what's called our ITR. So during in-service, we did an informed trauma response training for the officers. And this is all kind of part and parcel to that activity of us really taking that mental health seriously and making sure that we're doing those follow-ups, especially with something like this. As you can imagine, this is a horrible situation that the officers had to come into, and we want to make sure that they're all doing well with their mental health and well-being on a continual basis. Something else that we wanted to highlight as far as our community engagement is concerned. So over the last few months, so since July, we have our community services unit, and they spend a lot of time doing a lot of community engagement. So they've had approximately 30 events in July, with 11 of those being our police athletic league or our PAL events. And those can be things from basketball to volleyball, chess. We also do martial arts. August, we had 22 of them with 12 PAL events. And then September to date so far, we've done 19 with 11 of those PAL 11 additional for those being PAL events for each of those different categories. So not only are we focusing on making sure that we're doing a lot of the community engagement and reaching out, but we have that police athletic league, which is really working on having those numbers and things like that to reach out as well. Couple positive things. I know you said that you wanted to hear some of our positives. I did grab a few to kind of highlight. I won't go over all of them in super graphic detail because some of them are a little bit longer, but just kind of just to give you a snapshot of some of the things that we've received some positive feedback from the community about. We had somebody who wrote to us that it was a person who wrote about their mother, who somebody was banging on their door, and their mother was up watching TV, and they heard somebody try the doorknob and asked who it was, but didn't hear an answer at least. So she called 911. The dispatcher stayed on the phone with them until the police arrived, and then the mother stated that the officers were very professional and talked to her a bit to calm her down. It actually turned out that the officers found out that it was the fire department that had actually banged on the door and tried to enter, and that they had gone to the wrong apartment. But the officers were able to explain that and everything like that. So that was a good positive result that we had to be able to, assist the public in that method. We also had, kind of a lighter one, which is we had somebody who wrote in through our compliment portal for the public on the front-facing side, who wanted to give one of our officers an accolade because they saved 4 baby ducklings that fell through a storm drain. Once the officer rescued all 4 of them, one jumped back in. So they waited patiently for the second rescue, and this person wanted to highlight that. There was a person who wrote into us, and I like this. I kind of put these in the specific order because I wanted to kind of build up to some of these things. So a person submitted a compliment to us to give us an accolade, and I'll read this one a little bit more, which is they wanted to pass along a compliment to us for compassionate policing that they witnessed. They said there's a man who often hangs around near West Street and Calvert and Lafayette. So it's kind of in the downtown environment for us. And they tend not to bother people except occasionally asking for money. However, they said it's clear that they're either homeless or fallen on hard times. And they noticed them out, and as they were crossing this over by Cathedral Street, they said that there were 2 police cars stopped next to him. And they said instead of giving him a hard time, the 2 officers were offering him clothing and shoes. They said they were moved by that kind gesture, and they wanted to pass along their compliments. And I think that really kind of epitomizes some of the community engagement that we're trying to do to really highlight those. From a kind of more serious side, if you will, it's not, we do look at it from the community's perspective, but we've gotten these 2 last compliments I wanted to say, and I take these ones kind of especially to heart about how hard the officers work. So this actually was a compliment that we had that was sent over to us from the flight paramedic from the state police. The actual incident happened back in May, but we had received this, and I don't know if it actually got gone over looking at the information that was here. But the flight paramedics, we had a juvenile victim involving a shooting. And we had multiple pediatric patients with gunshots wounds, and the flight medic wanted to give the officer involved in this an accolade because they said, "It's my understanding you're the officer who placed a tourniquet on this person." And then they drew special attention to the fact that if it weren't for the officer's quick actions to apply the tourniquet, that there's a high likelihood that person may have died or suffered severe complications. And then they went further to say that based on the damage, that could have been very, very serious, especially with what happened. And that's really, having an officer who goes out there and puts their life on the line, but also puts the citizenry in that elevated level to make sure that they're taking care of them. That's really a big thing for us. And the last one, we had this one that came in a little bit later. To summarize, we had a person who was the victim of a stabbing. They wanted to give one of our officers, actually several people involved in this, an accolade, but they said that the first officer that arrived helped them to remain calm and ensure they were properly cared for by medical personnel. They highlighted a couple really cool things about this that I liked when I read the compliment, which is that the officer took the time to escort the ambulance to shock trauma in Baltimore, was with them throughout the night, keeping their family updated on the situation. And then they personally held on to the person's belongings and made sure they remained safe. Said additionally, while in the ambulance, they realized that they had lost their class ring, and the officer and the members of that officer's squad personally recovered and then delivered that ring to their house early in the morning later on. And they personally wanted to thank the detective and also one of our dispatchers for how that happened. And I kind of wanted to finish up with this because I think this one really kind of puts the icing on the cake, if you will, for the compliment here. Is really well written, and I just really liked it. It says, our police officers wake up every day, put on the uniform, and are willing to put the safety of our citizens, neighbors, and community ahead of their own. I think we as citizens sometimes forget that taking their selfless sacrifice for granted as we go about our daily lives. As a veteran of the Navy, we all decided at some point to wear the uniform and make a sacrifice for a higher cause, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. The events of that night will forever remind me of how lucky we are to have people like your police officers looking after us and our fellow friends and neighbors of Eastport and Annapolis. And I really, that was a very, that was kind of a hard hitting paragraph to read, because, you know, the appreciation that person showed for the officers going out there and doing, you know, yes, what is their job, but that individual seeing that and having that reaction is great. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that as one of our compliments. If we have any questions, I'm happy to take them. But those would be the stats and the things to go over for now.
Great. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Hipsky, and welcome, and nice to meet you this evening. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information and for sharing those very important compliments. Any questions or comments for Lieutenant Hipsky? And I'm saying it correctly, yes?
Yes, you are correct.
All right, seeing none, thank you again. Again, you are welcome to stay on, but we understand if you have to jump off. All right.
Jeanette,
Yes.
I'm so sorry,
Oh,
if I
yes,
may.
before-
I was trying to catch Rhonda before she
Yes,
left.
yes.
Yes, I just wanted to say, we appreciate the hard work that Rhonda has done on behalf of the Annapolis Police Department. It's been a pleasure to speak to her. She talks to Jen mostly, but sometimes I catch her ear too. But it's just, and you know, anytime we have a problem, we call her directly and she just gets on it and gets information. We're really able to communicate on a two-way process, and it's just really gonna miss you, Rhonda. We're looking forward to working with Lieutenant Hipsky, of course, but thank you so much for the hard work you've done on behalf of the Annapolis Police Department. It's been really appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I echo everything Moya has said, and you've really just like jumped into this fully and passionately and thoughtfully, and we just really appreciate everything that you've done to get, you know, the Annapolis Police Department up to where they need to be, and your collaboration with the other agencies and your willingness to talk to other agencies and provide guidance and feedback and talk to us and share feedback with us on, you know, things that could be helpful, whether it's, you know, changes in the law or the way, you know, different processes or some ideas for improvement, efficiencies, etc. So thank you for everything and all the best to you, whether it's a real retirement, enjoy it to the fullest, or you have something else that you might be getting into in the future. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors and just really appreciate you, and hopefully you'll stay in touch. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You all are very welcome. It's been my esteemed pleasure. I just have one last goal here tonight, and that is to make Tom smile. What's up, Tom?
Hey,
Rhonda, thanks for all you did.
Tom's got his poker face.
Very focused on the information.
Very focused, Tom. Very focused.
I'm here. It's great to see all of you, everyone. And thank you, Rhonda. What a joy it has been to work with you.
It's been my esteemed pleasure, and I leave you in very capable hands with Acting Lieutenant Hipsky. He will serve you well.
Thank you. All right. Okay, we will move on to the next item. We're coming to the end of the meeting now. So next item on the agenda is announcements. I don't know, Jen or Moya, do you have any administrative reminders for us? I know that, you know, everyone, please check your emails regularly. Please try to check at least once a week. More than that if you're able to, because sometimes we get a lot of, you know, really good information. I see Jen's hand raised. Go ahead, Jen.
Yes, definitely please check your email, because your next meeting is not until November 19th. And that at that point, we will have sent you a draft of the annual report to have reviewed, and hopefully you guys will be able to vote on that so we can move it into the design stages. So please, please, please pay attention to email over the next few weeks.
Look at that. Jen was like reading my notes. Yes, the next meeting is Tuesday, November 19th. I was like, she reminded me, and I'm like, yeah, I was like desperately looking at the calendar. I'm like, I know we did something because of Thanksgiving. And I was like, I don't see anything on any Mondays, but then Tuesday, because the ACC meets on Mondays, the third Monday of the month. So that's why it's a Tuesday before Thanksgiving because of the holiday, just knowing that folks may be traveling. And yes, to Jen's point, we are, hopefully you've had a chance to at least peruse our previous annual reports. If you have, Jen sent them, sent everyone a link. I know it looks like a lot. I mean, it's a lot. It's a very comprehensive report, but there's a lot of good data. And so if you have any questions or comments on what we've done in the past, essentially this report will have a lot of that same information. Obviously, information on the meetings that we've had will be a little bit different. You know, we can go back and if you have ideas about the recommendations, anything that you think needs to fall off or should be added, please share, and then I will share it with the whole, you know, group and get feedback. So yes, the goal is we don't meet in October, but that we're going to have a nice, a solid draft of the report, you know, other than like stylistic technical changes to be voted on at the November meeting. And so that way that'll give Jen and Moya enough time to do the design and get it finalized so that we can share it with folks with the county executive, county council, delegation, legislators, etc. Before its due date. And so you have any thoughts, any questions, any feedback on what we've already done and what we are going to send you in the future. Like, you don't have to wait until we send you a draft. If you have ideas now, just please feel free to send them to me, Moya, and Jen, and then we'll be sure to disperse that out to the group. And that was all I had. Moya, did you have anything to add?
I just wanted to mention that we do have, I believe, 3 members, David, Jennifer, and Tolasar. They're doing the Community Police Academy. So we're looking forward to hearing how their experience goes at the end of the you know, if you want to share now, that's great too. But I know it's been a long meeting. But I just wanted to, you know, thankful, you know, hopefully they're enjoying themselves. And I see a comment coming. So I'm looking forward to hearing. Thanks.
Just wanted to correct my name. 3 syllables. The R says nothing. Tolisa.
Tolisa, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So I know the R throws off many people. So 3 syllables. The R is very silent. So but, thank you so much for all the information. I am personally enjoying the Community Policing Academy. So what we're learning and how they are training the officers prior to going out into the field and all the things. And then seeing just the perspective from the community, from citizens. And so having that bridge gap and being able to ask questions and see the demonstrations has been wonderful. Some things are most definitely an update to me since I've been out of that world for roughly 15 years. And some things are still pretty common. So it's just great to see how they have moved everything forward as has been briefed by all the agencies this evening. So it is wonderful to see how it all is correlating to the things that we have been established to ensure is happening in support of the agency as well as the public. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that feedback. And I think mid-November, you will be officially graduate from, that's a time commitment too, every Thursday for 3 hours for 11, 12 weeks. So but it's really good information and experience, to your point, just having that perspective and just to see the work of our Anne Arundel County Police Department and how on top of it they are, and just really in their training of their officers is really great. All right, any other comments or questions for the good of the order? All right, I don't see anyone's hand raised, so is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? We can stay. Motion, y'all want to hang out? Thank you, Sharon. Is there a second?
Aye.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, we will see you Tuesday, November 19th. But be on the lookout. You will be getting emails from me, from Jen, probably Moya. And any questions, any concerns, always feel free to reach out. All right, thank you so much. Have a good evening. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Bye.